if there's something that's really speaking to you that's coming through in this moment that you're like, you know what, I'd like to tell folks about.
I get really teary with this, thinking of how much of my life I missed out on by trying to change it versus really being accepting of it. So I'm in my own process of rediscovering what that is within myself. But when you try to bypass the pain, try to bypass the heartache, try to shove all that down, like you miss out on life. You miss out on half of life. Half of life is pain and challenge and suffering. That's just the truth. The other half is the love, bliss, and joy. The more that we can accept the pain and suffering and go through it, that this is the way life works, the more we can access the other part, which is all the joy and happiness and love. Yeah, it's
amazing.
It's so yummy.
Welcome back to all of you to Flourish or Fold Stories of Resilience, where well-known people have the opportunity to give all of us a peek behind the curtain into the challenge, change, and complexity that they faced all along their journey. Now, with me today, I have Suzy Batiz. She is the founder of Poo-Pourri. You might remember those commercials about eliminating odor in your bathroom. She's also the CEO and founder of Poo-Pourri, Supernatural, and aliveness. Suzy, we are so delighted and excited to have you here with us today on Flourish or Fold.
Thank you. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me. What an honor.
It's an honor and a delight to have you here. So, of course, for those people that are tuning in and have a visual representation of the two of us, I've got to ask you about the gorgeous flower arrangement behind you and the neon sign that says alive as shit. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this is some wallpaper. This is my office at Poo-Pourri. And it's really kind of funny because this used to be my conference room, and my office was in an adjacent room that they're connected. And I never sat in my office. So when we came back from the pandemic, I flipped everything and redecorated my office. And I had to have an alive as shit sign because that's, what I love being, is alive as shit. And the funniest part of this is now I still sit in that I sit with my conference table. So it's not the room, it's actually the conference table I'm attached to. I think I'm just not a desk person, but this is my official desk that now I just do podcast interviews with. It's not really
amazing.
I know, it's funny. I really thought I was going to trick myself into actually sitting at a desk, but that's not happening.
But yourself had other ideas. You were not going to be tricked so easily.
Nope. I'm stuck to that conference table. It's so funny. I love just working at the end. I think it's also about community. Like, to me, sitting behind a desk feels so like I'm the boss and you're, whatever. If we're sitting at a conference table, it feels like, hey, we're all in here together just trying to solve a problem.
I love that. And tell us about alive as shit. What does it mean to be alive as shit? How are you doing that? How can we do that?
Yeah, so I have a course called AliveOS, which stands for Alive Operating System. And Alive is actually an acronym for Abundance Lives in Vibrational Energy. So that was really fun. The whole course is about resonance and dissonance and how to create more what I call aliveness. When you are in resonance, you naturally have an increased energy, you feel good, you don't know why. It's really funny. Like, I live in Dallas, but when I'm in like California, when I'm in LA, I am so alive. So I'm looking now about how can I, have a place in both places. Just because of the aliveness. I'm alive here because of my businesses and my family's here, but I also feel so alive there on another level. So I've never wanted to take care of two places, but I think that's what I'm strongly considering right now.
That's amazing. I have such a heart for California as well. I feel Just amazing, and somehow like closer to the earth's vibration and gravitational pull, if that makes sense when I'm there.
For sure. Yeah, that's exciting. So, but it's really about tuning into yourself and getting honest with yourself. Like, is this resonant? If it's resonant, you know it. You can feel it in your body. You feel it in your energy level. You feel it in just your conversations. You feel alive, and dissonance is when you feel actually like bogged down, you feel tired, you're sludging through. That's dissonance. And one thing I teach in Alive OS is really how to determine resonance and how to determine dissonance. And then once we've established what is dissonance, making a plan so that you can actually start moving towards more resonance in your life. Yeah, actually, it was prompted by a conversation with Dr. Bruce Lipton. I called him probably 6 years ago, and I just said, I have a question, like, are ideas alive? And he said, why do you ask? And I said, because I have this theory that when ideas feel alive to me, they seem to work out. And the ones that I, plan with my strategy and strategic, left brain don't seem to work out well. And he taught me about resonance and dissonance. And I really not only live my life, I talk to my employees about it, everyone around me. I just had an employee today that got another offer, and I could see how lit up she was. So it wasn't about her, it was about the opportunity. And she knows, and I know, it's like, you got to go do this. Like, this look at you, you're glowing, girl. It's not just, and then she hated it, because she loves working with me, but also she knows that my ultimate goal is for us all to feel more alive, no matter what that is.
That's a beautiful story. And I love the way that you're just living that across multiple layers for yourself, for the business, for the company that you oversee and lead, and also for all your people, because it's not easy to let people go.
No, it's not. And I used to really take offense to it. And now it's, again, everybody's so transient. And I do hope that I really believe, well, it's not just I really believe, it's true that if everyone were doing exactly what they should be doing and they were in full resonance, that the whole vibration of the planet would lift. People would be happier, there'd be less anger, there'd be less addiction. There would be so many things going on that would, we only do those things. We only grasp onto trauma, anger, pain, addiction, because we're trying to cover up the amount of dissonance in our life versus actually making a move where we can actually be more resonant. And those things more naturally fall away.
Incredible. I love that. And that idea is so resonant for me as well.
Oh, good.
Yes. So I want to kick us off talking about challenge. And as we all know, if resilience is one of the elements or an essence of what it means to be human, challenge, change, and complexity are really the fabric of our experience, right? It's so difficult to be human without experiencing a challenge or changes or complexity in our lives. And so for you, Suzy, what's been a significant challenge that you have faced along your journey that, looking back, you can see how this challenge significantly impacted and made you into the woman you are today?
Well, first of all, I think let's go back to every challenge has helped me grow. Every time I get through something, when you even think about entering the world, coming through a birth canal is a challenge. I'm saying it is from one state through a crisis mode, constriction. We don't know what's going to happen into another state. One of my mentors, Barbara Marx Hubbard, when she was alive, taught me that crises precede transformation. So we know that with chaos theory, we know that with a lot of things in science, that you actually have to have things shake up in order for something new to be birthed. You think about a plant that's in the soil, right? It has to go through the soil and press through in order to pop through to get to the sun. You think of a baby chick that's in a shell, right? It has to poke through and get out of that really tight place in order to come out and be the full chicken that it's supposed to be. Well, that's the way we are. Now, earlier in my life, I did not understand that. My father taught me at a very early age that we live in duality, and there's lots of talks of non-duality, but you have to remember that within non-duality is duality, right? Think about it. Duality is within the word of non-duality. So you have to accept duality. Duality is good, evil, light, dark, good, bad, and those are all perfectly balanced. Okay, so there's no way that you're going to have an all good life or an all bad life, right? Every single thing has its positive and its negative. It's the way the universe works. I actually taught a course on the law of hermetics, all the 7 laws of hermeticism. And it talks about that the universe is balanced. It's balanced. So within the balance is struggle and is challenge. That is a part of life. I have a friend right now that's going through a big heartache. And I was telling her this morning, I said, heartache and being heartbroken is a part of life. If you have never been heartbroken, have you truly ever really lived? Did you ever really go for it, right? These ups and downs are the way of it. But earlier in my life, I thought I was doing something wrong. And what I wasn't able to do, because I was so focused on the pain of the challenges, I wasn't able to see the good that could actually come out of them, right? So once I started realizing challenge happens, crises do precede transformation. Anytime you're birthing from one phase to another, there is going to be some constriction and some things broken up in order for you to go. Then that helps me move to that other place. Not that it's any less painful, less challenging, less dramatic, in my mind, but there is a part of me that's non-dual that's going, honey, you're birthing. I know it. It hurts. You're in pain. It's going to be awful. So I don't spiritually bypass and go, oh, it's all great. I'm like, it hurts. This is awful. But I know ultimately that it is for my good. So back to your question, my second bankruptcy when I was 38 years old, I lost what I considered everything, which is just so crazy now. Everything, my money, my house, my cars. I had my family and I had my health. Do you see? So even though I had this bad thing happen, all I was focused on was that. Because when we're in pain, honestly, if I came and stabbed you in the leg right now, you're going to forget about our awesome interview. You're going to be like, I'm in pain here. So it's one thing when we are in pain that we will focus on the pain, but there's also good that comes out of that pain. For example, when I had that bankruptcy, I went into a really deep state of depression. I didn't want to live anymore. I thought that it was over. I thought I was the worst entrepreneur in the world. I did not want to be in business. And I ended up going to a workshop with Byron Katie. This was 18 years ago. And probably more like 20 now. I went to a workshop with Byron Katie, and after that 10-day workshop, I came out and everything started flipping. I started realizing that a lot of the pain that I was experiencing was really my state of mind, right? So I started sort of accepting what was going on in my life, and I started looking at it from a completely different lens. There's all these studies that when an accident or something happens and there's 8 people, there's 8 different perspectives of what happens. It's the same thing with any situation in our life. You can turn it from multiple angles. So it's not just, oh, this is bad, let's just focus on that. It's like, hold on, what's also good here? What could work? So when you start learning and teaching your mind to look at things from different perspectives, then you can start shifting actually your experience, regardless of what reality is showing or doing, and ultimately what happens within that acceptance is that your reality does start shifting, but that's a whole other story. But what I realized in that challenge was that it really taught me what was truly valuable in my life. And that was my family and my health. That's the value, right? That's the most important thing to me that I had really lost sight of. And then, of course, the idea for Poo-Pourri came, and I've been on this journey. And sometimes I'm like, this is so challenging. I've never ran a business aside. I don't know if I can do it. So I have all of those thoughts all the time. Just this morning, I told my team, I felt angry with some of my executives this morning. And I wasn't yelling, but I was definitely, stern. And I just said, I there's a lot of pressure right now. I feel a lot of pressure. So I've learned to have these conversations, but I also told them this whole thing about crisis precedes transformation. It's like, we have a lot of pressure right now, but our company's in a major expansion, so the old systems that we had are not able to hold what is being created that's new. So we have to create new structures and new systems to hold this, to create a new container for the new expansion there. And within that is my own personal expansion. So there is no business world and then Suzy world and then the real world, like it's all together, right? My business is a reflection of me, of what's going on. I'm going through a personal transformation. The company is going through a personal transformation. Everything is transforming. And I think the entire planet right now, everyone is transforming. Yeah. And everyone's feeling a lot of pressure. That pressure is the constriction that pops us into something new. That was lengthy.
It's phenomenal. So good.
Thank you.
I love
it.
everything that you said. Yeah. Something that you talked about is this idea of resonance. And one of the things that I've been so struck by as I've read articles about your experience is when you founded Poo-Pourri, what I've understood is that in your prior businesses, you would listen to other people's perspectives. Mm-hmm. And with Poo-Pourri, what I've understood is that you were like, nope, I'm going to check in with myself. And if it's resonant for me, we're going to do it. And if it's not resonant for me, we're not. And I understood that that was something that tapping into your own resonance, into your own intuition was really game changing for you, at least early on. Could you talk more about that?
Yeah. And it was more that I didn't really care because one thing I agreed to within myself is I thought, well, if you can lose everything at any moment, which apparently you can, things happen, pandemics happen, things happen. Then I'm going to at least enjoy what I'm doing, because before I didn't enjoy the person I was. I didn't enjoy what I was doing. I was just trying to make it. So then I was like, okay, if I'm going to go back into business, I don't really care about all that anymore. As long as I have a good time and, the company's having a good time, then we're good. Now, I have not always 100% followed that, of course. It's like I generally will have a feeling. I will speak about the feeling, but I hire also really strong willed people, and I hire them for their thoughts and their beliefs and, how they operate in the world. And sometimes there's a lot of pushback. And most of the time I'm right when I say, I don't feel good. This doesn't feel good, doesn't feel good, but I'll go ahead and go along with it. But again, to me, it's not a loss. It's more of a learning experience. Like, oh, okay, well, I knew I shouldn't have done that. So it's just like another click. Okay, see, you went against your gut, Suzy. You went against your gut. And it's okay. We do that sometimes. But it's just me building that up and building up that confidence over time to be able to go, this is what I believe, and this is what I want, and this is what I feel in my body. So prior to the second bankruptcy, right after the second bankruptcy, I'd seen a therapist, and she asked me, she said, where do you feel that in your body? And my answer was, what body? Because I was so in my head, I had no access to anything that was in my body. So I started doing somatic therapy for many years and with a lot of plant medicine. I started going down the jungle. Let's see, my son's 34. He went when he was 19. So 15 years ago, we were going down to Peru, doing a lot of plant medicines. All of those opened up access for me to be able to feel things in my body. So then I was more in tune with my intuition, and my body screams. I don't always listen to it. I try to, but still there's limiting beliefs in me where I want to be liked or loved or accepted, how we all are. So sometimes, I will fall prey into that. But then again, I don't beat myself up. My mentor, Gay Hendricks, taught me there's zero value in beating yourself up. So I just go, well, okay, Suzy, you knew that. Let's move on. What'd you learn from it? Let's go.
Amazing. So incredible. And I love how you talked about where you feel things in your body. And even if you don't sort of act on your intuition or sort of follow up on it, that you allow that moment to be a learning experience that's free of blame or recrimination later on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, sometimes I'll be like, I knew we shouldn't have done that. Right. And they all like looked at me and I'm like, but we did. Okay. What did we learn here? And what we've learned are there's some really signs. We call it struggle bus. So whenever we are trying to do something and it is not in flow, like someone will raise their hand and they'll be like, hey, I think we're in struggle here. And if we're in struggle, too much struggle, we'll stop and kind of go, okay, let's reevaluate the situation. Are we trying to push through something we shouldn't push through? You know, there's two different kinds of push through. There's the push through in that you are in a crisis and you're in that contraction and you need to have momentum to get out. This is where the whole stuff about manifesting and, you know, you can be in this crisis and just change your thoughts and it'll shift. I just think that's bullshit. Okay. I think that you have to have positive thinking and intention coupled with inspired, intuitive action. Okay. Those together are what help you move. Just sitting in one place or the other. I mean, it could happen, but generally speaking, you know, I was in science of mind for many years and almost all of those people that were still there 20 something years ago were still in the same position in their life. I started realizing like, hold on guys, there's more than just this mind thing. You have to actually start taking action and moving towards, right? These things that you say that you want. You know, they were in the belief of, you know, I often say if Abraham Hicks were 100% right, what people followed, you know, if they followed 100% what they say, it would work. But most people say, oh, I can just think this thought and therefore it's going to happen. I'm like, you got a lot of things in there. You have beliefs in there. You have, you know, you have opposing forces that you have to work around. So I believe in shifting those beliefs with either therapy, hypnosis, plant medicines, any sort of thing to help shift your consciousness so that you are in line with that intention that you have. And if that intention that you have is not showing up in your life, this is when you talk about manifesting. If it's not apparent on the outside, then you can go in and sort of do some groundwork and sort of see what is blocking this, right? If you know this is your path, if you know this is where you should be, then what is it within you, you know, that you could actually shift to actually help that creation come about, that creation or something better. You never know. To me, the universe has lined up so many delicious things, more than I could have ever imagined myself. I always keep that open to something even more than I can see right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We like to say this or something better.
Yeah, for sure.
That's amazing. So I love what you're saying. And we have, you know, you're familiar with the 5 practices of particularly resilient people. The second practice is a practice called productive perseverance. So I developed these practices over 2 decades of interviewing people around how they've effectively faced challenge. And productive perseverance is the art and the science of when we face those challenges, of knowing on the one hand, when we persevere, right, sort of despite the challenge in our path, you know, when we get gritty, if you will, to borrow from Angela Duckworth, or when we recognize, using your words, that we're kind of like facing a struggle bus and maybe we need to pivot in a new direction. That could be pivot our thinking, pivot our beliefs, or pivot, you know, the outcome that we're seeking. And I'd love to hear from you, Suzy, as you kind of think about this concept of productive perseverance. How do you determine within yourself and with your team, when you face that challenge or obstacle, if that's something that you're going to continue to persevere toward, or how do you sort of know when to make a pivot or a shift?
Well, so that's really interesting. I was talking with my son about this really in depth this weekend, and he was reading a lot of like Joseph Murphy and, these old time science of mind guys that I used to really study a lot. And, he was telling me how he's going to change his life by changing his thoughts. And I was like, okay, get it, like, go do it, and then he came back and he's like, I don't know, Mom. And I said, yeah, if you look at, the scale of consciousness, you'll see that the pivot point is acceptance. So what this whole thing about manifesting, I'm not even sure if that really happens. What I believe more so, I've 20 years later, I've gone back to Byron Katie. I started with Byron Katie and then went on this whole plant medicine, I'm going to heal all my trauma. And now I'm back to that, which is really accepting what's going on, loving what is, right? Mm-hmm. So perseverance is so we can do two things. We can try to wear ourselves out, shifting our reality, changing and shifting and doing plant medicines and having the attentions and burning the sage and lighting the candle. And I just kind of giggle because I've done so much of that. So I'm laughing at myself here. It's like, if anybody could have done it, it would have been me. And now I'm back to, what if I just accept now? And what if I persevere where I'm at? And what if nothing ever changes? What if now is all I have? And I am sitting here with my anger, if I feel it, with my sadness, with my happiness, with my joy. What if I'm here with all of me? And who would I be then? And that's where I'm really more leaning to now. It's like doing that practice. So it's a really going in and full acceptance, which then actually does shift. It is the shifting point more. Because there's no wrong. That was from David Hawkins. What was the name of that book? Let me look real quick. I think it's the map of consciousness. But anyway, David Hawkins has a scale of consciousness, and below is like fear, anger, shame. I think shame is one of the lowest vibration. And then you go up to happiness, joy, love, peace, all of that. But the middle point is really acceptance. It's the pivot table. So when you can accept your reality, okay, this is what it is. I feel angry in this moment. Okay, I feel angry. And if I can fully feel that anger, which somatic therapy helps me feel, then it'd be interesting if I can sit with myself here, what's going to happen on the other side of that. And normally what happens is if I'm working through fear, recently I've been doing a lot of working through fear this year, and I take it all the way. Like, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? And it's always that we're going to be alone and we're going to die. No matter what fear it is, that's where it goes to. If you take that fear all the way, okay, so if that happens, what's going to happen? If that happens, what's going to happen? If that happens, you keep doing that, you get to, I'm alone and I'm going to die. It's like, okay, can I be okay being alone and about to die? And it's like, yeah, I'm good. Okay, great. So that fear automatically, the acceptance of that fear, not the trying to get rid of it, is what shifts. So that's been my practice lately. I'll let you know how it works. It's working pretty good because I fought it the whole I fought a lot the past 2 years, and I got out that old fight, perseverance, resilience. I'm going to push through, I'm going to make it happen, and I just wore myself out. And then I was like, okay, girl, I'm exhausted from trying to manifest my reality. What if I just sit in what I got? What's going to happen then? And there's a freedom there. There's a freedom. It's like, okay, this is what it is. Yep.
Yeah. Say more if you would. I think we're right on the precipice of it, but say more if you would about that freedom. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. So what I've found when I am resisting fear, I'm not free. I'm totally bound. I'm in this bondage with fear, right? I am trying to stay not afraid. I'm trying to do things to remove the fear. I'm trying to move it, shift it, get all around it, so that I don't have to experience it. Versus, and there's no freedom in there. That's a lot of, and trust me, the only reason I know this is because I'm a master at resisting it. Okay, like master level PhD, like many years of trying to get around it. And then I was finally like shaking in my bed this year at one point, and I was like, I just feel scared. I feel scared. And I'm like, okay, what if this happens? And then I just kept following it. And what if that happens and that happens? And I went back and I remember Byron Katie going, oh my God, all fear leads to you're alone and you're going to die. And once I realized that even if that thing happened, then I'm okay. And you have to realize I didn't jump from fear to let me go to the end. Oh, it's okay. Do you see the difference? Like I went through it. Okay, then that's going to happen. And here's what everybody's going to believe. And oh my God. And then I'm going to be like, and everybody's going to be looking at me and the papers are all going to say this and that's going to happen. And it was just like, oh my God, I went through that tunnel of fear into, okay, this happened. I'm alone. I'm going to die. Now, how do you feel? And I was like, oh, I feel okay. So that was the transmutation of the fear, not trying to get around it or avoiding it. And whenever you do that, then the fear unlocks because it doesn't have the power it did. That's the freedom. It's like, okay, that could happen. But what I see a lot in I don't even know what you call it anymore. We used to call it new thought. I don't know what we call what we're doing now, but you see a lot of spiritual bypass. That's a word. It's like, oh, I'm afraid. Oh, girl, but you're going to be okay. Oh, you're right. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And it's like this big leap that really nothing's been done in between there. And really the yummy work. Like I just went through a major heartache, like 2 years ago. I mean, I let myself wail. I mean, I am talking, I did 52 ceremonies in 2020. I mean, I went for it. I went in hard. I was like, I am heartbroken. And I just went into heartache. And like you couldn't go into it harder. I wasn't trying to avoid it. I wasn't trying to fall in love again. I'm like, oh no, like we're going to go in and find out the root of all this. And what's so beautiful, what got birthed out of that was a freedom that I now believe that I have to actually love, right? Because the love that I had before was so tied up in so many things, my parents and, all the things you unwind in there. And also I became an amazing poet. I was writing like Rumi, like poetry just to express. And so many of my friends have wanted me to publish a book of it, and I probably will someday. But there were so many gifts that came out of it. But again, I didn't bypass the process. I went through the tunnel. I went through the cave that I feared. Like I thought I was going to die at some point. Like I literally heartache so much that I just thought I was going to be destroyed, It's the same thing with fear in business. When I came back from the pandemic, the company was having some issues. And I really, for some reason in my mind, all my old fears of losing everything came back. I thought I'd been free of those, but that's when I say I was laying in my bed. And I really thought I was going to lose everything, even though on paper it wasn't true, but in my mind. And I would lay in bed and shake. And I just went through, okay, what's going to happen if I lose everything? And I started seeing all the papers, oh my God, she lost everything. I started seeing everything. And then I ended up with, well, hell, that'd make a great story. And then I was okay. I'm like, that'd be a plot twist. But it was only after going through all that mentally, right? But we're taught to not go there. We're taught to, change your thoughts, change your thought patterns, get into a more positive vibration. And I'm not sure if I believe that anymore. I believe you have to just kind of go through that little tunnel. And then when you break out, you're free, dude. It's like, okay, I got another layer of freedom I didn't have.
Yeah. I love that. You know, there's this, there's all this sort of messaging, let's just say, around um, eliminating fear, obliterating fear. It's hashtag fearless, right? I love seeing your face as I'm saying this.
It's like, sure.
Suzy, I mean, if you want to, Suzy, does fear play an important role in our lives? Should we try to eliminate fear completely?
How? How can you if you're growing? Like I do see people. I see people that are so trained in their mind. You know, the Buddhist monk that sits in a cave and they live their life and they eat their rice and they, meditate 7 hours a day. And there's nothing wrong with that path, that's what you want to do. But I'm in the expansion game. And if you want to be in the expansion game, good luck doing that without fear. Because it just comes with it. Again, let's go back to the little chick. You think that chick is not scared? It has no idea what's on the other side of that. Imagine what a caterpillar must feel before it turns into a butterfly. I mean, it completely dissolves, right? And then all of a sudden it becomes a butterfly. But I'm sure within that process, it has no idea what's going on. So if you don't know what's going on, there's natural fear responses that come up that say, I'm not safe. You shouldn't be doing this. And there are things. I've asked my mentor, Gay Hendricks, about this a lot. Like, if I come up with financial stuff, and I remember years ago, I'd be like, I'm worried about money. And he would say, well, call your accountant and see if there's something to worry about with money. And then if there was not, then sit with your fear, right? It's like, there's reality. It's like, I'm afraid. Hold on. Is there someone around that's going to kill me? Okay, no. Okay, great. Then this just must be some internal fear that I have that I'm working through this expansion. And no, I don't believe it's possible. I haven't experienced it with expanding because I'm in the expansion game.
Mm.
And
so
I would expect, even if you ask that Buddhist monk, I'm sure they go through many fears in their own mind as they're sitting there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fear just is. You've got love and fear, right? Like, we have these love and hate there. Again, it's all balanced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's the way it is. I don't even believe in this fearless. I believe I can be afraid and I can still walk forward, but I can feel my fear. And I'm like, I feel scared and I'm still going to go do it. This is something I've never done before. If sometimes even something as little as a workout, if I'm working out with a new trainer, I'm not a natural body workout person, I'll feel a little fear. It's like, what if I can't do it? What if they work me out too hard? But it's because I'm going into a new area. And of course, I was trying to learn to play the guitar a couple of years. And I'm like, this is hard. Anything is hard at the beginning. And that's the reason you continue on to mastery. It's the many years where things become easy and you become less afraid. I'm sure if, like, public speaking, I remember when I was in Byron Katie 20 years ago, I picked up the mic and I was like, I was so terrified to talk in public that I couldn't even get words out. And then now I speak in stages. Like, I had to go through many levels of fear to get there. But it was like, okay, girl, you're going to do it. Let's go. I feel scared. And sometimes I get on stage and say, I feel scared right now. And that's how I would start my talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Well, if you want to grow, I don't know how you do it without it.
Right. Right. And in a way, you talked about, duality early on, and it's almost as though we're saying, well, maybe you can avoid fear, but the price that you pay, or the price that we pay, is to stay in the same place or to not expand.
And then it's exciting. And then you start kind of wanting those things you feel scared about. It's kind of like, oh, I've never done that before. Okay, let's go. How is this going to work out? And then life can become more of a game. One of my favorite books is The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. I don't know if you know that, but yeah, it used to be really hidden years ago. I actually wrote the original Live OS course 14 years ago based off of that book. But you know, when you start realizing it's about energy, it's about fear is just an energetic. It's not something to remove. It's something to just feel. And imagine at the end of your life, if you never felt heartbreak, if you never felt fear, if you never felt sadness, if you never felt grief, if all you felt was love, bliss, happiness, rainbows. I mean, really, is that the depth of life you really want? Or do you want to feel it all? Like I'm the poet that I want to feel it all. I want to go for it.
Great. I can't wait to hear one of your poems one day, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I'll send you one. It's still an area where I'm not super confident, but they're really good. It was just a natural outpouring. I didn't try. It's just, I was just processing pain, you know, and that's the way it came out. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fascinating. I had a similar experience. I won't get into it here, but I had a similar experience of processing pain in 19 through 21, and some of it came out as poems too.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's amazing what can happen. I mean, look at we wouldn't have amazing music, art. A lot of that is just processing the human experience. And if we deny ourselves things like fear or pain, how much of human experience are you denying? It is the human experience. So the non-duality within the duality is pain happens. My acceptance of that is a non-dual approach to that pain, not trying to get rid of it, but accepting is that's the way of it. Oh, yeah. You know who everybody right now should 100% go listen to is Jeff Foster. So he's one of my friends. He was an enlightenment teacher and non-duality enlightenment for 15 years. He never had a suffering thought. And I knew him from back in the Byron Katie days. We had connected a few years ago. He ended up getting diagnosed with a lot of physical, I don't know how much he shared about his illnesses, so I won't do that, but he went through a lot of pain where he really thought he was dying. He canceled his book contract. He told all of his followers, like, I've lost it. Okay. Like literally, I'm suffering here. I taught you all that you don't suffer. And I'm in pain. So he took about 3 or 4 years off or out. He didn't know if just personally talking to me, he's like, I don't know if I'll ever speak again. Like that's so done for me. And then now it's so fun watching him emerge, talking about embracing all of the human experience, all of our shadows, all of our darkness, all of our pain. So he's teaching non-duality again from a different perspective of the total acceptance of our humanness and the human experience. And that's what alive is. It's so good and yummy and delicious. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Jeff Foster, total acceptance. It's amazing.
Yeah, so listen to everything he's doing right now. It is so delicious. And he's one of the most, can you imagine a non-duality teacher telling his students, I'm suffering, I'm done, don't follow me. Like he's so much in integrity. Like I am a massive fan of his. He's great.
It's incredible. So incredible. Well, this has been so phenomenal. I have just enjoyed this time. It has flown by so fast. So, Suzy, I want to give you an opportunity to share with us any final words that you have that can sort of feel heavy, but if there's something that's really speaking to you that's coming through in this moment that you're like, you know what, I'd like to tell folks about, or what's coming up for me in this moment. Love to hear any kind of thoughts or tricklings of consciousness that are coming through that you'd like to sort of wrap up on.
Yeah, what kind of pops up is just, they don't miss out on parts of life. When I look back, I mean, I get really teary with this, thinking of how much of my life I missed out on by trying to change it versus really being accepting of it. And I just feel so teary with that. It's like, I still am processing some grief around that, around my gosh, what have I been teaching people? What have I been showing people? So I'm in my own process of rediscovering what that is within myself. But when you try to bypass the pain, try to bypass the heartache, try to shove all that down, like you miss out on life. You miss out on half of life. Half of life is pain and challenge and suffering. That's just the truth. The other half is the love, bliss, and joy. The more that we can accept the pain and suffering and go through it, that this is the way life works, the more we can access the other past, part, which is all the joy and happiness and love. Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's so yummy. It's just really delicious, because then you're fully alive. You're feeling it all, And I think we're also programmed. I'll speak for myself. I was so programmed to not feel my feelings. Don't be sad, don't be angry, be a good girl, keep quiet. All of that training was to train me to not feel, right? Any kind of abuse or, molestation, all of these are distancing ourselves from our body and our feeling. But the more I dive into the deliciousness of just whatever life has in this moment, it's beautiful. And it's like, why am I trying to shift it so hard? Damn, what am I missing by trying to shift all this? What if I just sit here, right here in this? Can I be happy in all the mud?
Gotta be happy in the mud.
Like a lotus flower, right? Can I just be sitting in this mud and grow? Can I grow in this mud right now?
Yes, I sure can.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, so good. Incredible. Well, what an honor and a joy to have you with us here today on Flourish or Fold. It's been an incredible interview and time with you. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your wisdom and your joy and your presence. And I know so many people are going to be touched and inspired and have the little Lego blocks in their heads just shift in incredibly perceptible ways hearing from you. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I feel excited. I feel excited that we all start enjoying more of our lives and being more alive, Feels good.
Absolutely. It feels so good.
Thank you so much for having me on. So sweet.
Thank you for being here.